Now that we've operationalized religion and morality, we can check out question 1. Do religious beliefs and practices encourage moral behavior? Norenzayan points to evidence from 3 sources to evaluate this, each with increasing scientific effectiveness. First, he looks at sociological surveys. Second, behavioral self-reports. And third, experiments involving priming. What do we learn from the sociological data? Well, 91% of people who attend religious service weekly or more often report donating money to charity, 91%. But only 66% of those who attend religious services a few times a year or less donated money to charity. Facts like these are interesting, and they suggest that something might be there as far as that common observation that religious people are more moral. But what do religious and non-religious people reveal about their willingness to help others when they aren't asked in such a direct way? Researchers have tried to evaluate the relationship between religion and morality by using subtler measures of prosociality in self-report studies. The results have been a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes studies like these have found no association between religious involvement and prosocial tendencies. Others have found that religious involvement does predict more prosocial behavior, but only when the prosocial act makes the participant look good, either in their own eyes or in the eyes of observers. In that case, religiosity predicted socially desirable prosociality only. Other studies conducted with non-Western populations have found a link between religiosity and contributions to a common resource pool. It's safe to say that the data collected from self-report does not yet allow for useful generalizations. Results from studies using experimental priming are where we really start to see that religion does something. In these sorts of studies, experimenters observe effects from implicit or subtle primes on participants' behavior. In this case, their willingness to give cash offers to other people in economic games like the classic dictator game. In the dictator game, the dictator is given an amount of money and can choose to share it with another person in any portion they wish. Their donation out of $10, for example $5, is taken as a measure of their prosociality. In the studies, participants are primed with religious or secular primes, and there is a neutral control condition. In the religious prime condition, they're given words that implicitly activate God concepts. They get 5 scrambled up sentences that contain the target words: spirit, divine, God, sacred, and prophet. And the other 5 sentences they get are the neutral control sentences, where they only contain neutral words unrelated to religion, and they don't really allow you to form another coherent concept. Participants play the unscramble game and make them into proper sentences. In the secular prime condition, they're given words priming concepts of moral authority, but not God. Subjects in the secular prime condition unscramble sentences that contain target words civic, jury, court, police, and contract. And in the neutral condition, again, they're just given these scrambled sentences without target words, connoting either these religious or moral authority secular concepts. The results are here in this graph, and you can see that the amount of cash offered is on the y-axis, and we can see results for the neutral prime condition, the religious prime condition in dark gray, and the secular prime condition in light gray. The participants primed by religious words gave about double compared to the control condition. They almost gave an even split, 5 out of 10. But look, so did those primed by the secular words. This suggests that secular primes connoting law and order can have the same effect on prosocial behavior as religious primes connoting sanctity. All of this is when playing against people who aren't considered out-group members anyway, when imagining a dictator scenario where the recipient is not an out-group member. So religious cues invoked prosociality, but so did secular clues. In order to understand whether we can really say that religion in general creates moral behavior, Norenzayan next asked, do all religions concern themselves with moral behavior? Is moral behavior what they all aim to regulate? An organized religion that's concerned with non-moral matters would undercut claims that religion, or institutions of divinity and sanctity, are responsible for what we know as good and moral in the world, such as spontaneous prosocial giving. In fact, historic record and ethnographic observations indicate that small-scale societies in particular have religious systems that do not concern morality. Pastoralists or herding cultures such as the Tuva in Siberia present offerings to local spirit masters known as chir izi, which punish people for waste and misuse or overexploitation of the local lands. And these are not typically considered moral concerns. As another example, a researcher resided with an indigenous group called the Hadza in north-central Tanzania. They are foragers whose practices include rituals, taboos, and magical beliefs. And the researcher wrote, the Hadza do have a religion, but it bears little resemblance to what most of us in complex societies with Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, etc., think of as religion. There are no churches, preachers, leaders, or religious guardians, no idols or images of God, no regular organized meetings, no religious morality, no belief in an afterlife. Theirs is nothing like the major religions. Indeed, small-scale societies are less likely than large anonymous societies to have a big God that's concerned with morality. Why is that? Researchers theorize that the values and life domains under the watch of deities are linked to the size of communities that worship them. People engage in more face-to-face interactions in small-scale societies. This allows for local norms to be established for settling arguments about who hurt who or what's fair. There are well-functioning systems of reciprocity and kin altruism to govern allocations, and rules don't need to be encoded in large-scale religious law. Whereas in large-scale societies, people track and manage huge anonymous crowds. People need to rely on the rule of law and contractual agreements. The watchful eye of one God, whose rules are understood by everyone in the large group, helps maintain order and influence belief and behavior.